I'm gonna go ahead and try to
Same.
record the call, see if we can make that work. I normally don't record the calls, but I know you mentioned you had your friend in Germany, so hopefully
That'd
we'll
be
be able
amazing.
to. Yeah, we'll see.
Perfect. Hey, good to see you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I had a very productive, creative day. Continue work on my online course, and I managed to jump into the ocean twice. Got beaten up pretty badly by the waves, so really wet
Oh,
today. But it's just such a beautiful being to connect with every day. I'm so blessed to live so close to the beach that I get to enjoy that. So yeah, feeling very grateful for that.
you're in
And I went
Costa
to a
Rica, right?
calisthenics, yeah, I went to a
Nice.
calisthenics body weight class, which was also super inspiring and just so amazing what we can do with our bodies. So cool. What a journey to be on.
Yeah.
Where are you based at the moment? Like,
I'm
how was
back
your
in
day?
California. I was in Tulum for about 10 days and got
Mm,
here on Tuesday. So, yeah, yesterday night, basically, in the middle of the night.
yeah.
So, just adjusting back. And yeah, this is actually like my passion. My whole real estate career, pretty much, I've kind of like let it just kind of, it's not really a priority. And
Hmm.
so now this is really what I want to do. This is
Incredible.
exactly what we're
Yeah.
doing right now. Like more of
Hmm.
this, more helping people. Um, I know I have the context that nobody needs help, but I also have the context that, this is simply the play of life, right? This is who we're called to be, and we're just stepping into that. We got
You know,
another inspiring person coming on here. Uh, Welcome, Noah. You gotta. We usually give it a few minutes for everybody to trickle in. I like, 3 to 5 minutes
absolutely.
after. I think we
Yeah.
had another person coming on, but they somehow dropped off.
Yeah. It's not even top of the hour yet, so I
Yeah.
suppose all good. Taking it easy. Hmm. Yeah, I can so feel your heart in this. I can really feel your passion and your excitement, and if you're coming from a place of excitement, whatever comes from that is gold, regardless if people need that or not, but people want it. And I think that's a big difference, if people want that and people benefit from that, that's the beautiful thing that most beautiful thing we can offer to be of service to others.
Right.
Welcome, Noah. Great to meet you.
How's it going?
Thank you.
This
Thank
is
you so much.
another guy who's very inspirational. Hoping to have him also be a guest speaker soon. He
Hmm,
definitely has a lot of gems to share with the group.
nice.
Appreciate that,
Hmm.
Noe.
Thank you. Have you done your TED Talk yet?
April 14th.
Ooh,
Oh,
nice.
amazing. Sounds exciting.
That's exciting. Here we go. We got
Super
a few more
excited.
people coming in here. Welcome, Laura. Ooh, welcome, Marivi.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. Great to have you here. We'll give it a few. We had like 11 people confirmed here, plus on Meetup we had another half a dozen. So
Hmm.
we'll just give it a few minutes to let everybody trickle in. How's everybody doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Just life is happening, and that's one thing that I learned from one of my mentors, that life is nothing until we call it. We're like those umpires, right? Those baseball umpires. Strike, not a strike. And so life is happening. And so we get to decide, is life happening for us, to us? Are we a victim of life? Or like what Jonathan's going to bring to the table, right? He's going to bring a unique perspective that I totally am behind that perspective, this paradigm of healing, transcending the paradigm of healing, like making yourself wrong all the time, like, oh, I need to heal this, I'm wrong for this. But I mean, I'm not gonna do this justice. We'll let Jonathan dive into that is in a
Hmm.
couple minutes here. But yeah, that's my perspective. Life isn't anything until we call it, right?
Hmm.
We get to be empowered by it, or we get to be a victim of it. I see you been around here. No, I saw some pictures on Facebook. You're like in Monterey or like in Big Sur area with your mom, right? Or
Yeah, I had a really cool month with my mom, man. I took her to Yosemite and then took her to Monterey Bay, and then I closed out the month. I took her to Zion National Park. She had always wanted to go, so I
Wow.
messaged her on Friday. I was like, "Hey, mom, when are we gonna go to Zion?" And she says, "How about tomorrow?" And I was like, "Let's do it."
Wow.
So she said that was the
Awesome.
most adventure she's had in since she could remember. So we had a really beautiful
Wow.
time together. Yeah.
That's a
That sounds
long
like a really
drive, isn't
bonding
it?
experience.
Oh,
Is
it's
that
nothing at all. It's nothing at all. 10 hours is nothing.
10?
Yeah, we chew up 10 hours. To be in that
Adventure.
paradise and just to drive that little ways, it was pretty special time with her.
Nice.
Mm, mm.
I have to keep all the walks though. I have to keep all the hikes flat. She's 72 or so. She doesn't like anything uphill or so as long as I keep the hikes flat, she's up for it.
Mm.
Oh,
And it was 22 degrees, so it was on the chilly side at night.
Wow.
you guys camped out overnight.
We did.
Wow.
Mm.
Your mom's very adventurous.
She's a trooper, man. She is a trooper.
That's nice. You guys you're creating memories for like a lifetime. That's priceless. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
you have to, like you said about life coming at you, how you take it. It's like you gotta capitalize on these opportunities and create these memories because when they're gone, and we're just really a collection of memories and experiences.
Right. Welcome, Melanie. Welcome, Christina. Nice to have you guys here. So it's 6:04. I think let's give it just maybe one last minute. We'll see who else trickles in, and then we'll jump right into it. And we always have people trickle in at all times here, so they'll catch the gist of it. If not, here we got some more people coming in. Welcome. I'm not sure who that is. It says Zoom user. Oh, there you go. Hey, Ruth. Welcome. Oh,
Thank
long
you.
time no see. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How about yourself?
Good, good.
Oh,
Excited
good.
to get the call going here. Jonathan, I met him at one of I did an adult summer camp, and that's how I ran into Jonathan, and he and Brina had a what would you call it, like a little workshop within the summer camp, and I was so impressed with them that I kept in touch with them and been wanting to do some coaching with them as well. They just brought some perspectives that I had never been exposed to, so I'm so
Oh,
excited that he's bringing his other perspectives to our call that I think will be beneficial. Because for me, I know for me, I was exposed to the paradigm of find your fault and then heal. Like, what is the imbalance? Heal. Oh, you're
Mm.
imbalanced somewhere, like bring balance to that. So it's like this hamster wheel. And I questioned it. And so, without further ado, let's welcome Jonathan to the latest edition of Healing Conversations. He'll be discussing the topic that we've been talking a little bit about transcending the paradigm of healing, a journey from incurable bipolar disorder to essence. A little bit about Jonathan, if you didn't read the full invitation, Jonathan is a visionary entrepreneur, community builder, and leadership coach. He has dedicated his professional life to bridging the gap between the business world and alternative ways of living, co-funding multiple award-winning companies. Beyond his impactful career, Jonathan's journey of transcending healing paradigms from incurable bipolar disorder to rediscovering his essence is something so powerful and that will open our eyes to a different way of seeing the world, perhaps. For nearly 15 years, Jonathan has guided thousands on their leadership journeys as well, serving as a facilitator and entrepreneur. Like I said, that's how I got exposed to him. He was a facilitator for a workshop that I attended, and I was so impressed. And here he is now. So let's have Jonathan guide us as we explore the profound journey of transcending healing paradigms and rediscovering who we really are. That's perfect, just the way we are. Jonathan, welcome.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you, Noe. Thank you so much for organizing this in, your time that you're dedicating yourself to creating these powerful spaces that so many people get to benefit from, and I get to share a path or a part of my story. So thank you for this opportunity and welcome everyone. I've gotten into the habit of opening calls that I'm hosting, facilitating, or even just taking part in to invite us into a short moment of grounding and yeah, just centering meditation. I don't know how about you. For me, it's 8 o'clock in the evening, so I've had a full day already, and to give myself also permission to drop a little deeper, to arrive here fully. I take the privilege of being in this role of the guest, to have the microphone here, to also invite you, if you want, into a moment of closing your eyes and just connecting with your breath and feeling your feet on the ground and allowing to deepen the breath naturally by softening our bellies. Taking another inhale, and with the next exhale, really allowing everything that has happened so far today to fade away and everything that will still happen today to disappear for a moment, trusting that it will come back if needed, and really giving ourselves full permission to be here, present with everything that is there. And then tuning in with something that happened today that you are grateful for, and just bringing this moment to life and feeling it in your heart, allowing it to expand in your body, noticing how any contractions or any sensations of discomfort might be affected by the sensation of gratitude as well. And then taking another deep inhale. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes while staying connected with this feeling of gratitude. Thank you everyone for joining me into this. And I certainly feel a lot of gratitude for all of you being here and dedicating your time to your own journey of healing and supporting each other on this path. It's probably the most rewarding thing that we can dedicate our lives to these days, not only for ourselves, but also for the collective. So the way that I want to structure this is to share a little bit of my path, my story, but without getting too self-indulgent. I want to also try to distill a few essences, a few theses that I've came up with that I want to bring here, so that you hopefully, by hearing my story, but then also hearing the learnings that I generated from that, can benefit and apply that to your life as well, and hopefully expanding your minds and your hearts a little bit, so that you come out of this conversation a little more alive, a little more inspired and expanded. So I want to begin my story with kindergarten. When I was about 3, maybe 4 years old, I had my first initiation, in the sense that I loved these beautiful flowery dresses. And so I went to kindergarten. My parents allowed me to do that in one of these flowery girls' dresses. And unfortunately, the other people in my kindergarten group didn't appreciate my taste of beauty as much as I did, and made fun of me. And for the first time, I experienced what it feels like to be excluded, to be shamed, and to be different somehow. I since then haven't worn any flowery dresses in kindergarten or school, and really adapted to what was socially acceptable, even at such an early age. But one of the things that taught me is that I was somehow different in many ways than other people around me. And that is something that has been continuing through my entire lifetime, that somehow I've been always a bit unconventional, or in some ways maybe ahead of my time. And so I studied business, and at university, I was also not really fitting in. I lived in a community before. I had a spiritual practice of meditation that I picked up when I was about 18. And a lot of the spiritual values that I was holding were in complete contrast with the values that some of the professors were holding. And so I was in this deep conflict of recognizing that these professors had dedicated their lives to studying that and couldn't be entirely wrong, but at the same time also recognizing that, yeah, I was feeling something different, and to not know how to reconcile this conflict was a deep moment of crisis for me. And I felt that I was at this edge of not knowing how to continue my path with the studies. Eventually, I did continue my studies. I came across Ken Wilber and integral theory and had a mental concept, but it awakened something in me that took me a few years to get a deeper embodiment of what it actually means to recognize that there are different spheres of knowing, of also sense making, that allow us to reconcile the different territories that all hold different parts of the truth, but none of them holds the entire truth together. I'll skip forward a little bit because there are so many details that I could get lost in. But what I wanted to focus this conversation on, since it's on the topic of healing, is that since then, I've continuously had moments of really deep, difficult darkness. And from a spiritual perspective, you could say these were moments of the dark night of the soul that were initiating me into deeper levels of who I really am. But it came with a lot of suffering and a lot of difficulties. It showed as moments or episodes, at times several months, of complete lack of motivation, of deep depression, of suicidal thoughts, and just not knowing where my place in this world is, really feeling no drive at all and using all my discipline and willpower to keep up any physical practices and these things. For those of you who have ever had depressive episodes, know how debilitating that can be. I was always somehow following an unconventional path, as I said, and I was always creating a very independent lifestyle in the sense that I never worked for a big corporate. I was always an entrepreneur, creating my own lifestyle, creating my own structure, creating my own environments. And I'll skip forward to the path, to the part where I was running consulting boutique, you could say, that was focusing on leadership development, and we were bringing consciousness development into the business world. And at that time, I was living in Berlin, and I loved the people that I was working with. I loved my co-founders, and yet there was something about it that wasn't quite on track anymore. And then COVID came and things got really extreme, with every social aspects in Berlin being locked down literally, and very little social life happening, which was one of the things that excited me about Berlin. So it was dark, concrete jungle. And I was working in a job where I realized I had to, in a way, translate what was actually coming through and adapt myself to the corporate environment in order to be understood. So I was, in a way, limiting myself, and I was holding back a lot of the things that I actually knew in order to be understood, to be received by an environment that wasn't quite ready for the messages that wanted to come through. I couldn't see it that clearly at that point, but things got really serious with my health, and I was really desperate, to the point that I went to a psychiatrist because I just didn't know what else to do. I've been trying all kinds of alternative methods of healing and been on that path for a long time. So out of desperation, I went to the psychiatrist, who diagnosed me with bipolar disorder based on a 15-minute conversation, not even, maybe 5-10-minute conversation. And what made him diagnose me with this and hand me a prescription for these severe SSRIs was that I was speaking about my depression, which was very obvious. And he then asked if I ever had moments of euphoria and feeling deep happiness. And I definitely had those. I had episodes of that. And so that made him label me as bipolar. And I did a lot of research on that disease. And it's very severe to be diagnosed with an illness that is, according to the medical system of the West, incurable. And it has a strong, not placebo, but nocebo effect. If you hear something like that, there are stories of people who have had perfect health, have been diagnosed with cancer, and a week later died because of that diagnosis. That's how powerful the mind is. And I think that is one of the big problems of the medical system as well, that his intention was to, in a way, or let's say it differently, I trust that his intention was to have my best interest in mind, to offer healing, but according to the framework that he was working in. And that was very mechanical, prescribing a prescription drug that had very severe side effects. Long story short, I had these drugs on my nightstand on a bedside table for about a month, and it was like a meditation object. And every time when I was close to taking them, something happened that made me not take them. A friend offering me half a kilo of cacao, and I knew if I wanted to drink cacao, it doesn't go with that medicine. So I chose the cacao over those medications. And in the end, I'm deeply grateful to myself that I never took these medications, and hear stories of people who got severely addicted to them and really not having had any positive impact from them, things getting even worse. So I took a different decision. I knew I had to change something. And when a friend told me that he is in Costa Rica, that people are still dancing, people are gathering for men's groups, and lockdown isn't happening in the way that it did in Berlin, I decided to jump on board and ask my colleagues to take a sabbatical. Ask for 2 months sabbatical. It turned to be 3 months. And after these 3 months, it was clear I won't be going back into my old life. So I made this radical change, and my health improved almost immediately, even before going to Costa Rica. Even just by making that decision, I felt a new sense of aliveness, energy, and motivation. And so for me, it was very powerful to be in a different environment and to feel the connection with nature, to feel the sense of community. And so the first thesis that I want to offer is that every dysfunction that we have, in a way, serves also as a function. For me, it was clearly, Charles Eisenstein calls it the mutiny of the soul. My soul was rebelling against the lifestyle that I was living and calling me forth. So every sickness that we have is actually an attempt for self-regulation and for healing that the system implements in order to push us back on the right track. And fortunately enough, I had been able to listen to that call after many years of really suffering through that, and back and forth of really feeling excited and inspired about life, but then falling back into a depression. The other idea that I want to offer about healing is that healing, and Noah, you pointed to that, is based on this idea of lack, that there's something wrong with us. And it's a judgment from a very limited perspective. So if we already include the idea that every dysfunction also serves a function, then we can also see that this idea of healing, in a way, is misunderstood. If you look at inner work, Jeff Foster said it beautifully, the inner child doesn't want to be healed, it wants to be held. So if we're looking at mental illness, it's not about making the symptoms go away. Actually, these symptoms are part of the healing function already. And if we learn to love them unconditionally, then maybe the neuroses that we have don't have to cry out so loudly to get our attention. If we direct our attention voluntarily, so if we accept ourselves with all of that, then paradoxically, by letting go the idea that something needs to change, we're opening the possibility for change. So my journey doesn't end there. The last 3 years have been a very powerful initiation, or a series of many initiations. And I've had moments of severe darkness, and I've had moments of just pure joy of being alive. And that is something that led to a deeper insight that I'll get to in a moment. But one of the realizations that I had at that time already is a bit of a paradox. I realized in a way that I wasn't healed because I was never broken. And this diagnosis of the psychiatrist was, from his perspective, correct. But from my perspective now, it's just a pattern, a frequency, a category that he put me in to make sense in his worldview. But who I am and who we all are is so much more complex than a category or any definition or any diagnosis that we could have. And so to take the whole human into account is something that the medical system doesn't even have time for. It's so much more complex than to say, like, okay, because you have these 5 symptoms, you're ticking all these boxes, that's why you have this disease, and this is how we treat this disease. It's a very mechanical, one-size-fits-all industrial way of looking at human health. And there are many more ways to look at it a lot more holistically that are taking more attention these days, but it's still something that the mainstream is very much holding on to because it needs to be effective, and it needs to be, ultimately also serving a medical system that is built on pharmaceuticals and all these kind of things. So I'm not going into the deeper societal implications of that. I just want to share this paradox that coming to this understanding that I was never broken, that I was always who I am, and at the same time recognizing the deep brokenness of all our hearts, to see that we all hold deep pain within us and that there's a deep longing to come home and to be compassionate with that part as well. So holding this paradox, of on the one side, recognizing our perfection and at the same time being deeply compassionate also with our brokenness. So what I was hinting at before and looking at the last 3 years where I feel that something has shifted quite fundamentally within me, and I've been navigating the ups and downs of life a bit more smoothly, but I still had these episodes of feeling a lack of motivation, feeling what could be diagnosed as depressive symptoms. But what I realized is that lasting happiness cannot be found in this existence. Life is always a dance of duality, and lasting happiness cannot be found because that is who we ultimately are. If we connect with our true essence and we recognize we are already infinite, eternal bliss, but we didn't come to this planet to experience that. The reason why we incarnated here is in order to experience the contrast and the full spectrum of human emotions in the contrast. And because of that contrast, we get to experience happiness, but we also get to experience depression. We also get to experience sadness, fear, anger, and all these emotions that make a rich life. And so the idea of numbing our emotions selectively doesn't work. We can either numb all emotions and suppress our aliveness, or we can invite the full spectrum of aliveness. And I apparently chose a very full life with full intensity. And so if we recognize that we live in this world of duality, then these ups and downs of life, one of the things that they have pointed me towards is that there's something that is always present and that is always constant, regardless if I'm really high on the wave or if I'm really deep down in the valley. And this something that is always present is much deeper than this Jonathan identity, persona, body, mind system that I'm navigating this human experience with. To recognize that there is a witness, that there is an observer, a consciousness that is being aware of itself, is something that many of us have experienced in meditative states where we have a deliberate practice. But through the intensity of these contrasting polarities that I have been going through, I can recognize that there's something that is bigger than all of that, that is holding the whole intensity of the human experience without being affected by it. And so my journey has been leading me to this interesting place where now I look back at my professional path and I realize it was so necessary for me to distance myself from this environment where I was limiting myself and translating what was coming through in order to fit in, to now stand on a different ground, have a different confidence to speak more boldly into the world what I sense is coming for us as humanity and what is necessary for us as leaders. And I see all of us as leaders. If we're consciously moving towards healing, if we're consciously moving towards our fears, then we're taking responsibility in a way for our lives like very few people on this planet actually are. And that, in my definition, makes us leaders for people to receive inspiration through our embodied example, not because we're doing everything perfectly, quite the opposite. It's because they see us walking the path and they see us stumble and they see us succeed. And when they see us succeed, they recognize that they can do it too. If other people can see you as the human being and see that you're not some kind of God or Jesus who has it all figured out, but rather to lead by the example with an open heart, that is powerful. That is powerful for others to follow. That is powerful for others to receive inspiration from. And that leads me to the fifth and last thesis that I have, and that is that we need each other. More than ever, we need to remind ourselves of the truth that we feel deep inside our hearts of who we are and what could be possible if we allow for that to take more space. So for those who feel called to walk this path, my sense is that life won't get easier, quite the opposite. It'll get even more challenging because we're asking, in a way, for life to bring more of the challenges so that we can transmute them and learn that we are bigger than anything we could ever fear. And it invites us to fast track our growth, our awakening. And through that, we can then guide others much deeper. We become these wounded healers that walk the path that others can follow. And we can only guide others as deeply as we have gone ourselves. but we need each other for this because it's such a challenging path. We need to, in a way, form these clusters where we can see each other, encourage each other, and inspire each other. And one of my favorite metaphors is the metaphor of the caterpillar that transforms into the butterfly. It does so by spinning a cocoon, this chrysalis, and within this cocoon, it almost entirely falls apart, and just a few central organs stay intact, but the whole structure of the caterpillar dissolves, and within that, so-called imaginal cells appear. These imaginal cells are called imaginal cells because they hold an image of the future of what can be the butterfly. But first they're being attacked by the immune system of the caterpillar, and only when they find out that these imaginal cells can actually connect with one another and build these cluster structures where they cannot be attacked by the immune system anymore, then they start multiplying and taking over the system. There comes a tipping point where the butterfly emerges and eventually spreads its wings. And I think this is also what we need to do. We need to come together and support each other in building these clusters where we mirror each other, our greatness, and where we see a different truth than what mainstream society in many ways is still seeing. Mainstream society is still seeing a worldview of division, of separation, of competition and conflict. And I think many of us are waking up to the illusion of that, of recognizing our oneness, our interconnectedness, of how we need each other and how we need to work together in new ways if we want to meet the challenges that are around the doorstep for us as humanity. So I call these soul awakened leaders. Leaders who are feeling the call of their soul, who recognize that it's not so much about our own comfort anymore, that it's really about what life wants to bring through us, of how we can be in service to life rather than fulfilling the small desires of our egos. And through that, really also accessing a deeper resource of what is available to us if we recognize our divinity, if we recognize our perfection, then we don't need to spend so many cycles in healing and therapy and all these things. It's all good and fine. And I think it's beautiful to dedicate yourself to that path, and it's a both and, but also it offers us this magnet that we can align to. If we remember more and more that we are ultimately who's observing all of this and that we were never broken, and we can remember each other, remind each other of that, then we can create a powerful attractor and a force field, a reality distortion field that allows us to live into that together. And that is the vision that I'm holding and that I'm dedicating myself to. I think I took a little longer than 20 minutes, but I'm coming to an end, and I'd be very happy if we still have time to guide into a little dialogue or questions or whatever is alive for you.
Yeah, as you're saying all that, I feel like what Ram Dass said, what you're speaking to is we're just here walking each other home to what we
Beautiful.
really are, right?
Exactly.
That's really what you're
Yeah.
pointing to. And I feel like that's something that we get caught up in this character because it's so solid, it's so real, and it is. This is us in duality, right? But what we
Yeah.
are is something even greater. You know, we're this infinite essence. We're really having a human experience. We're all the same. We're all connected. So I so appreciate the message. Does anybody here have any comments? I know this is, a different perspective, perhaps that most of us haven't really been exposed to. Rose, do you have a question, comment?
Yes, yes. For no, sorry. How do you say your name again? I don't want to mispronounce it. No, Noe.
Oh,
For
yeah.
he said something that his definition of healing is that we're not broken, and that the definition is that to really come home or come back to your true self and integrate that. I think that is so beautiful, because when we think of healing, we think like there's something wrong with us and that we're broken and we need to be fixed. So we do there's nothing wrong with doing therapy and all of this, but the idea that I need to get better. But when the truth is, healing is coming back home, coming. And for me, that's beautiful, because if I can, that healing is, like you said earlier, that I really appreciate, is that the acceptance of all of our brokenness, woundedness, all of this, and that there's nothing wrong with us. Those are just part of who we are, and that's okay. And I
Mm.
love that when when you said that, it really resonates because this is one thing that I've been struggling with, is that I need to my therapy, because I need to process the trauma that happened to me in childhood. And I did a lot of processing, but I'm coming to the point where I'm like, I'm tired of it. I don't want to process anymore.
Mhm.
I've been processing for the past 5 years now of my trauma, and I've even got to my abandonment wound, to my but I feel like there's something more that's missing, and I just want to I just want to relax my body
Mm. Mhm.
instead
Wow.
of trying to keep processing all this trauma. And I'm not saying they're not important, they are important, but it feels to me like there's something it's missing.
Mm. I'm so glad that you're sharing that, and to feel how this is landing in your body. That makes me so happy and so grateful. If that is the only thing that comes out of this conversation, I've already, done enough. And what I love about what you're sharing is the realization that it never ends. You can do the healing path until the end of your life and beyond, but it never ends. We can dig even deeper, and we'll always find something. And even if we're done with our personal healing, we'll come to the collective trauma and the ancestral trauma of our grandparents and all the things. There's so much that will be uncovered, and we can dedicate ourselves to that. But if we're holding on to the illusion that one day we'll be done, once I've done all the healing, then I'll be happy. We're putting our happiness again under this condition, and to recognize that it needs this balance, this balancing force of being okay with what is. And the other aspect that I think is super crucial is to surround ourselves with people who are able to love us for who we are. And I'm blessed enough to have people in my life who've seen me through all my neuroses and who wouldn't want me to be any different, who love me exactly as I am. And the power of that is that those people can love you in places where you cannot love yourself yet. And through that, you can learn through other people to love yourself in exactly those places where it's still difficult for you, because they model it for you. They model and they show you, oh, even with that, you are lovable, you are worthy. And to have those people in your life is at least as profound to have a really good therapist who can do that job for you, but probably even more profound because they'll be with you wherever you go. And that's really a tremendous gift and a tremendous teaching that allows us to soften, and allows especially that part that always wants to criticize us and wants to be perfect and that wants to be different to soften a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, well said. That I love those 2 points you made. Surrounding ourselves by people that already see us fine. Somebody told me when I really awakened 4 years ago. She said, "Be awesome for those that need no convincing." Sit with that. It took me a while to get it, and I got it through experience. Right? Sometimes we make ourselves wrong by being who we are, because the biggest imperative, survival imperative of being human is being accepted, fitting in. Jonathan, you're alluding to that, starting off in the talk, right? And sometimes we just make ourselves wrong. I'm not perfect. I'm broken. I need to fix myself. Otherwise, nobody's gonna accept me, right?
Yeah.
But really, like sitting with the perfection of that we already have arrived, and surrounding ourselves with people that see the beauty and perfection of who we really are, right? That's so key too.
Yeah.
Noah, any comments, questions?
I mean, I just really liked how he talked about fitting us all in a box and just checking everything off, and then saying, well, here's this pill, take this pill, or that's going to be the solution. Like if other cultures hadn't figured out solutions that weren't just popping a pill. So we don't all fit into a box, and we're all different in our own unique ways.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, one of the big insights of this journey is also that most of us have been wounded in connection, in relationships. And so what we need is relationships to heal that. So if I'm being offered a pill instead of a relationship, I will only treat the symptom. I will never go to the real cause of why that symptom has been coming up in the first place. And for me, it is so flawed, because if you want to use the metaphor of your car is broken, there's a warning lamp going off, and you're taking it to the mechanic, and the mechanic would just take out the warning lamp. That is pretty much what psychiatrists do with these kinds of diseases that they haven't fully understood yet. They label them incurable, which makes people believe that there's something so flawed with them that they will never live a happy life without medication. But the deeper truth is, Western medicine is just saying we have no idea how to cure this. We haven't found a path yet, and we're too proud to admit that, really. So saying that there's something so fundamentally wrong with how humans are set up, that there are things that are just not curable, is basically an excuse for not being vulnerable enough to say, like, we just don't know yet. So seeing how Western medicine in so many ways is just treating the symptoms, and at times making it worse through that with all the side effects that these medications have, is honestly very humbling to see. You know, if medicine is getting that wrong, which other areas of life do we need to question where we might have it completely backwards? But to recognize that the complexity of humanity calls us to find new ways and not to stop being curious, I think is a powerful invitation that more and more of us are waking up to. And yeah, I think, Noah, you're speaking into that, you know, that if we're learning how we need each other, how we need healing relationships, and that can actually bring deeper change than just making the symptoms go away. And that requires to take the time to not just put each other into simple boxes, to understand the complexity of who we are.
Well, you're speaking to the whole foundation of why we're all here, why this even happened is it's based on love and acceptance and really seeing the perfection that we already are, right? Just
Yeah.
appreciating this gift that we have of being here and being able to experience life, right? I mean, it's such a gift. There's nothing wrong with all that being said, you know, with wanting to heal certain aspects of the personality. But what I've the things that I was exposed to was, wait a second, when you look in the mirror, who am I? Who is this character? Right? This is a character composed of stories. Much of the time people believe stories, like you said, of Western medicine, where they might say, hey, you have this, you have that, and you're just taking people's word. Let's say, I mean, I never went through that process, but you know, the stories of like the guy that had a marriage, got divorced, and you know, so on. Is, you know, we all have a background, we all have a history, and then we say we are this person, but then we look at that and we say, wait a second, I really do I own that? No, I mean, life is brand new every moment, and so that's the perspective that I've adopted, and that's where I've realized something that you were really talking to, this concept of unconditional love. I realized that all of creation, everything's expressed as unconditional love. Otherwise, we get into duality, right? This is good, that is bad. No, the sun shines upon all conditional love. And so when you see that nature is unconditional love, then all we have to do is look within, and then the stories to solve of who we think we are. No, no different. We are unconditional love in the flesh, experiencing. But you know, life happens and it's normal when we judge ourselves and then we say, wait, you know, that needs healing. But when we step back, like you said, the witness, we step back and see from a higher perspective, who am I? You know, we see how beautiful our essence is what I've discovered. I mean, it's such a beautiful way to see life and to be in a state of gratitude.
I was talking to an acquaintance the other day, and she said she started taking a happy pill, like Xanax, and that doctor had just prescribed it to her. And she said, well, she was glad because she hadn't cried in 3 days. And I was just like, you know, just triggered a lot of different thoughts in me. It's like, well, that's not really healing. That's just taking a pill to numb your emotions and numb your feelings to everything. But how is that healing?
And
It's
again, also there, yeah.
It's a very awkward approach that Western medicine has, that just focuses on this, take this little thing right here. It's really weird.
And also there, you know, I'm not judging anyone, and really
Yeah.
having a lot of compassion, because I also do believe that there are situations where these medications serve a purpose, but it's important to be aware that we're not confusing healing with treating the symptoms, you know, and just alleviating the severity of the symptoms that are present. Just like you wouldn't take painkillers on a daily basis to, you know, heal a broken leg. You know that, yeah, you can take a painkiller to make the pain go away, but the healing, you know, requires some rest and really stabilizing the leg so that it can enact on its own healing functions.
What was it that you said earlier? You said every dysfunction has a function, and you said something about every disease being a call from our soul to return. I don't know what you said exactly.
Yeah. So for me, I see it that every disease that is present in the human body or the human psyche is already an attempt to self-regulate and to come back into wholeness. So for me, if we look at my example, my depression was basically a cry of my soul to saying like, hey, the life that you're living isn't serving you anymore. You need to be more in nature. You need to be surrounded more with community. You need to stop sitting 8 hours in front of the computer. You need to, you know, make some radical life changes in order to align yourself with what is meant for you. And so if I had ignored these symptoms, you know, and would have just suppressed them with medication, I would probably not have changed much and stayed living in an environment that wasn't really supportive for me. So there was an impulse within my system that was pushing me towards more of my truth. And so I see it with every disease, every seeming dysfunction, you know, there is a function in that it serves, and that allows us, if we listen deeply enough, to move towards healing, move towards wholeness.
I really like how you went to Costa Rica and that was like a trigger in you where you're like, man, I wasn't really living, or it just sparked something in you where you felt like that was satisfying to your soul.
Yeah, for sure. And it needed that time outside my existing context to realize that, you know, while I was back in that context, I was easily telling myself a story of like, wait a minute, why am I complaining? You know, I have a job in a company that I created. I'm doing meaningful work. You know, I have a good circle of friends. I have, you know, so many things to be grateful for, and yet I'm not happy. So I had to leave that context in order to realize what was actually missing and what I was longing for on a deeper level. And I was sitting with the discomfort of not doing anything for the first 3 months of being there, and really just waking up every morning with the question, after I had more energy, to ask, how can I be of service to life? And there was nothing coming. And that was a big challenge for me, to just sit and do nothing. And at the same time, recognizing how blessed I was. I had the most amazing fruit and vegetables fresh from the land. I was going to ecstatic dances. I felt super beautifully connected in my partnership. I had a beautiful home that I was living in. I was blessed with so many things, and I wasn't doing anything for that. You know, I was just receiving that, and I was feeling how nature is blessing us so abundantly, especially in the tropics, obviously. It was warm and sunshine and, you know, all these things. But it was challenging, a deep belief that I had within myself that I need to do something in order to be loved. I need to do something in order to be accepted, to be seen, to earn money, you know, all these concepts that we grow up with. I need to do something in order to justify my existence. And there, life was telling me, no, you don't need to do anything right now. And that was a deep moment of insight and initiation for me to recognize, oh, wait a minute, what if that is not true? What if I don't need to do anything to earn love? What if I don't need to do anything in order to earn my existence here on the planet? I don't know if you say that in English as well, but in German, there's this expression, to earn a living. You know, to make an income, you say you earn a living, which is so weird to me. You know, life is a gift. And if we realize how nature is gifting us in so many ways, the natural impulse is gratitude. And from this gratitude, the response to give back comes. Generosity comes out of gratitude. And that's how it should be, rather than creating an artificial system of scarcity where we are forced to do things that we don't really like, that are crushing our soul and our spirit, and that make ourselves sick on the inside and perpetuate a system that nobody is really actually believing in anymore. And so tapping back into this gratitude, tapping back into our true generosity and our excitement of wanting to give back, because that's what I believe all of us have within us. No one is born lazy. I think lazy is also just another symptom of our society, of our times, you know, that laziness is ultimately a trauma response. And so if we open ourselves up to that generous spirit that we all have within ourselves, I think we could create a world of abundance and overflow for everyone, not because we are forcing ourselves to do jobs that we don't like, but because we truly have gifts to share, and these gifts want to be seen, these gifts want to be shared, and everyone has these gifts. I think one of the biggest crimes of capitalism is to make us believe that we're not needed, or that we're not needed as more than just consumers of stupid products that no one really needs. And so stepping back into our creator power and really acknowledging that we're all needed for what's ahead of us, I think is a powerful realization and a powerful call for everyone.
I so appreciate what you just said. I mean, you're such a visionary, right? Your introduction is Jonathan is a visionary, and that's really what you're alluding to. When we step into our essence, to what sets our soul on fire, it's just automatic, like you said. It just happens, right? Like from the heart. Life happens as a gift. It's unconditional love. Same thing. We it's reciprocity, right? It's just what we are. But you're right, like a lot of us are in these jobs or in these ways of being, we're conditioned in such a way that that passion is like pouring water on a fire, and we don't connect to our essence, which is what you're alluding to. When we connect to our essence, everything just naturally flows. Leslie, really. Oh, Rose, did you have a comment?
Yes, like I was just reflecting on what he said about that we don't have to do anything. We can just relax and receive from universe or from God, and that must make them feel so good, because imagine it, like for me lately I've been just feeling so tired, even though I've been sleeping all day and getting a lot of rest, and then why am I so tired? And when he mentioned something earlier about listening to your body, it's because I guess my mind in my brain is in this constant thinking, like I gotta do something, I gotta do something, even though my body's not is not doing something, but mentally I'm always thinking like I have to do something, and it's just draining my energy, because and that's what's happening to me at the moment. Like, why am I tired? What's going on? And when he mentioned, it's because we're in this constant need to gotta do something. We have to prove our worth. It's something like that. But if we can just relax and open our heart, and he said receive all the blessings from nature, from universe, and it's just like, wow, that must have been feel so good to feel that relaxation in your body and just to receive. But somehow we're so conditioned that we have to prove our worth, that we have to do something, and that is one thing that I'm struggling lately is I just want to breathe. I just want to relax, and I just want to receive. But somehow I'm in this thing that I have to do something. And my body's talking to me because I'm feeling so tired. Even though I'm getting 10 hours of sleep all day, why am I still tired? And so thank you for saying, for mentioning that earlier, that our body speaks to us, and if we can listen, if we listen to that, it will give us this message that we need to look on and see what's really what's going on. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I feel you with that and this exhaustion.
It's
And
exhausting.
I think a lot of that is also our individual exhaustion, but also our collective exhaustion, if we're sensitive enough to that, that we feel how exhausted we are as humanity in this time, how much work we're doing, not just, like on a physical level. That's mostly, actually giving us energy if we're physically active, but the emotional work that we're doing these days, if we're sensitive to that, is not to be underestimated. And my invitation for all of us is to just be extra tender and extra gentle with ourselves, and to give to ourselves what we so readily give to others. Oftentimes we're so generous with others and gifting them with all the things that they're asking for or not even asking for, but how often do we actually give to ourselves? How often are we generous with ourselves and being, the good mother, the good father that we would have wanted to have in our childhood? We all have this inner child within us, and this inner child longs for our attention, longs for our presence, longs for our generosity, to really be sweet with ourselves, to talk sweetly to ourselves, but also to give ourselves enough rest, to not judge ourselves if we're sleeping for 10 hours. It's all perfect. It's all exactly as it's supposed to be. Your body knows what she's doing, so trust her, listen to her, and be gentle with her. Nourish her with good food, nourish her with touch, with whatever is supportive, be gentle and trust that there's an intelligence that is bigger than the conditioned mind that tells you I need to be running in circles and not getting anywhere anyways.
Thank you.
Did anybody else have a comment, question for Jonathan?
I guess I'm just wondering, this was such a, I don't know, like a soothing conversation. I'm wondering if you, I don't know what line of work you're in or what you're doing, but if you do more speaking or presentations, or I don't know, what do you do?
Yeah, so I work with what I call leaders of leaders, or these soul awakened leaders who live a life that is so inspiring by the path that they're walking that it cannot but impact other lives. People who are ready to hear the call of not just what I want, but what does life want through me. And so I have a bi-weekly group coaching call that I offer called Soul Alignment, which is for free, which you can sign up to. I don't know if I can share a file, then I can share these 5 theses that I presented today
Yeah, you could
here
also
in the chat, and then you can
throw them in the
download that
chat, and
little
you could also email them.
presentation.
Yeah. You could also email them to me, and then I can post them on the group page for everybody to, everybody here and everybody in the group to also take
Beautiful.
advantage of that.
Great, thank you. So I posted the link to my website as well. There are a few other offerings where you can learn about the work that I'm doing. So next week, Thursday, it is 9 a.m. Costa Rica time, Central time. There's the next opportunity to, be in the space with me.
So I'll grab these 2 links. What is this, like a PDF document here?
Yeah, I shared the file here in the chat. Download it there. I can also send them to you, so you can share the email.
Thank you.
Yeah, I met Jonathan and Brina at like I said, at this adult camp, and they were awesome. They exposed me to really this whole listening to the sensations in my body. We were walking slowly. We did a bunch of exercises. They were really eye-opening. As far as like, at times we're in the state of autopilot, right? And we're not really listening and really, really tuning into all our senses, even like our bodies, like you said, is constantly speaking to us. So yeah, he's an excellent presenter and speaker and very insightful. So glad that he's on the call today, sharing his insights with all of us because I was impressed. Everybody in the group was impressed with his presentation. What was it? It was this year, right? During the summer, I think, when we met him.
23, so last year.
Oh,
but
that's
yeah.
right. I'm still stuck in 2023.
Yeah, thank you so much, Noe. Yeah, really beautiful that you're holding these spaces, and I feel very inspired by your path as well. And yeah, very grateful for the ways in which our paths interweave. And one of the things that became clear to me was that where we are in history, I'm not looking for clients anymore. I'm looking for allies. looking for people who get it, who know that, yeah, we're moving into a different time now, and we're all needed. So if anyone feels the call to become an ally on this path, whatever that looks like, that would be my beautiful vision coming true, to see us all as co-creators for this new earth that is wanting to be born through us, and really supporting each other on this path of really living our full potential and loving all our limitations. So holding this dual awareness in that as well, and feeling really grateful for all of you coming here and spending your time with me. Thank you so much for your attention and presence.
Thank you, Jonathan, again for
Thank you, Jonathan.
yes.
Yeah, so if you want to stay in touch, go visit my website. There is a link also to my newsletter, and I'll share with you all the things that I'm up to. Be really beautiful to hear from you again.
Thank you, everybody.
All the best.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
rest
Good
of the
night.
evening.
Well, thank
Night.
you. Have a good night.
That was sweet.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I think the
Yeah,
call went
thank you,
well.
Noe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really
Thank you so
beautiful group
much.
of people that you brought together. And I'd be super curious to have another call with you sometime in the next few days. I can send you the link for my calendar and you can see what time works for you. But I'm really curious to also hear more about your path, what's unfolding for you, and to drop a little deeper into that, where we go from here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm supposed to be in Guatemala on Sunday for until February 2nd. So it's
Oh,
been kind of
amazing.
like again, I just came back from Tulum literally yesterday
Mhm.
night, and so just
Wow.
getting settled in. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, definitely. Between now and Friday, well, actually tomorrow's Thursday or Friday. Well, actually Friday's probably a better day if there's any time then.
Friday is great for me. What did you say? When you're in Guatemala? Friday
On
already, or
Sunday, Sunday
Sunday? Okay. So if you're still Pacific time, that is 2 hours behind me, but
Just
I
have a
am
10 o'clock my time acupuncture appointment. That's all I have on the calendar for Friday.
okay. So I have a call until 10 o'clock my time. Let's see if we say 1 p.m. I think 11 p.m. your time, a.m. your time. Would that work?
I might be running a little bit behind because usually I go to the appointment and she's usually like 11. She goes over like 5-10 minutes. It just depends because we usually talk. She's a nice person to talk to, so we, have
Sure.
conversations.
I'm free all afternoon actually. So 1 p.m. How's that?
Yeah, that works.
Amazing.
Okay, cool.
Then
Sounds
I'll
good.
send you an invite for that. Awesome. Look forward.
All right, thank you again.
Wonderful.
There you go.
Thank
I
you
know
so
it's
much.
late at your time. All right, you have a good
Have a
night.
wonderful
Thank you.
rest of the day.
Yeah.
Good night. Ciao.